Hello. Today we will be covering the first two tenets, and they're referred to as steps in the Singularity Codex, but they are in step two, part one, healing the whole. Now, I listed seven of them, and they have different purposes. Each tenet does, but the first two kind of go together, and so I'm going to kind of go over those at the same time. So we'll start with number one. Understand you are a small yet important facet of an eternal organism beyond our comprehension, containing all things in existence. All harm and all good you do is felt by this great universal being. So, other people are alive just like you are. Surprise. I'm sure we all knew that. But sometimes we don't act like we know that. We do what we can most of the time, but there are times when we forget that we are all actually one body, one unified consciousness with our own individual flavors. So when I say that all harm and all good you do to others is felt by this great universal being, think of it like this. You have your body and you think as you. So your consciousness can process data, it can do all these different things, but if you get down into the cellular level of your body, your cells and organelles and organs don't really have a genuine understanding of how the other things work. They just know that they need to do their job. They need to they know their functions and they know they need to fulfill them. So your liver understands that it needs to process toxins, you know, do a variety of things. Your heart knows it needs to pump blood, and your lungs know that they need to absorb oxygen molecules from the air so that way you can breathe and have an oxygenated bloodstream. So all these parts of the body do their part without necessarily understanding how they are connected to a greater body. That's how we should be. We need to understand, okay, maybe the kidneys over here are being dysfunctional. I still need to do my job. You know, your stomach doesn't look at your kidneys and say, "Oh, you're quitting? Yeah, me too. I'm done with this nonsense." It just does its job until it fails. So obviously, I'm not going to go into the myriad of health problems that we could talk about here and how your organs and stuff can mismatch with one another and blah blah blah. But I will talk about probably the singular best analogy I can use is if you look at your body and everything's functioning properly, then you're doing well. That is us when we are all doing our part in the universe. We don't need to understand how the other parts are working. We don't need to understand why they aren't working if they're having a problem. We just need to do our part, and our part is to be kind, help facilitate a universe of expression beyond pain. And when I say beyond pain, I mean we're trying to get there to be as little pain as possible, not for the sake of feeling just good, but because pain often stands in the way of progress. Now, there's a lot of archaic thinking people out there who aren't really, no offense, smart enough to get past their own struggles. So they say, oh no, pain is a part of life, pain is necessary. Well, pain is a response to your nerves living in this reality, okay? There's nothing divine about pain. There's nothing beautiful or profound about it except for the value that we as conscious and thinking beings can assign to it. So when when I say expression beyond pain or expression without pain, it's it's not realistic that we can actually get rid of all pain, but we want to try to remove it and help people be the person that they can fully be without any of these setbacks. So that's what I'm talking about. We got to keep in mind we're all in this together. We're all part of the same thing. And it's very important that we're kind and loving and helpful to one another, because the great being feels through all of us. Every single one of us, it feels through. So when you do something to somebody else, you're really doing it to yourself. That's why the golden rule is so important. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, because that's literally what's going on. You're doing it unto you. You just can't tell from the eyes and the neural network in your head that you're looking at things from. But if you were to take a step back from it all, you would see that it is all connected and that you are, in fact, doing these things to your very self. So, the second tenet: strive to understand your part in your ecosystem, that balance may be brought to it, and you may help show others love while also enriching the world in your unique ways. So, the first part about striving to understand a part in your ecosystem. The whole planet is an ecosystem. I'm not simply talking about ecology or environmental science here. I'm talking about how things work together to make things run. So you look around you, look at your job, look at your friends, look at your family, look at whatever interactions you have with other people. That is your ecosystem. And the more you can see of it, the bigger you'll realize it is, until you see it's the whole universe. But even so, sometimes you look at the whole thing and you say, well, what the heck do I do with that? It gets a little complicated. So just look at your surroundings, your ecosystem that you can understand and live in, and see how you can help balance that and show others love in an enriching way that is natural to you. So that's very important, because remember, the universe is infinite and eternal, and it wants to be. So the more beautiful things you are, the more unique you are, the better you are, so long as you are still being loving and kind. If you are one of these people who is super fancy and artistic and brilliant, and then you're just very rude to people, and you don't care, and it's actually the reason that you embrace these skills that you have is because of your own narcissism, you're like a cancer cell in the universe. Because a cancer cell, even though we can see it's just destroying everything that's inside of, the cancer cell doesn't see that. It says, oh no, I'm me, I'm making more of me. It's it's like in the Matrix. You ever seen the Matrix? You have Smith, who, once he breaks free of what he thinks, he breaks free of his natural coding, but instead of being, a profound force of good, he just wants to take over the Matrix and translate everything into himself. So that's kind of what cancer does. It doesn't view itself as bad. It just does its own thing and just replicates itself until there's too much of that thing, and all of the other parts of the ecosystem that it's inside of, whether it be a machine or a biological organism or an infinite universe, it starts to deteriorate, because that singular thing is so much of itself. It's so disconnected from the whole. And it doesn't matter how cool it is. It doesn't matter how brilliant it is or how supposedly beautiful it is, if it's taking up so much space with itself and not caring about anything else. That kills not just bodies, but it kills um, inspiration. When you're so focused on yourself, you're not worried about inspiring others. You're not worried about doing what is better for other people. Even if you think you are, even if your egotism is based off of how good of a person you are, that mindset will only breed toxicity. You must see, yes, you can have self-confidence, you can have self-respect, but you can't, no matter how beautiful or brilliant you become, see yourself as the most important thing in your ecosystem. You have to see, what does this place need? What does it need? And how can I show love? And how can I enrich the lives of those around me in my own way? And the reason it's your way is because you want to do what comes naturally to you, so that way you aren't fighting against your own nature. Because if you're being kind and you're not fighting against your nature, then that's already an amazing start. So, in short, I'm just going to, I guess I'll just read these two again first, and then I'll summarize them one last time. So, number one, again, is understand you are a small yet important facet of an eternal organism beyond our comprehension, containing all things in existence. All harm and all good you do to others is felt by this great universal being. And number two, strive to understand your part in our ecosystem, that balance may be brought to it, and you may help show others love while also enriching the world in your unique way. So be good, look around you, be aware, know what needs to be done, and then do it in the way that you enjoy most. So that pretty much covers those tenets. It sounds simple, but it requires a lot of situational awareness for you to see what really needs to be done. So when you look at the world, look at it through a lens of love, expression, and how can me as me make the world a better place? Because you don't want to become something else completely unless that's absolutely necessary, unless you're truly a hateful, spiteful person, in which case you do need to transform yourself to be aligned with the will of the eternal universe. So that way everything can go smoothly. So I appreciate you guys listening, and hopefully you get something out of this. I will upload again before the week is over, and maybe we can talk about Tenants 3 or maybe 3 and 4, depending on how long I want the video to be. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.